Good day. I'm thrilled to share this lesson on how to paint these fisherman cottages in Arniston, a fishing town in the Western Cape of South Africa, as it is one of my favorite places. These cottages in Arniston are not constructed in a linear or precise manner. Instead, they have a more relaxed and informal feel to them, like the community. So, when deciding what to include or leave out of your picture, keep in mind that what is the spirit of these people, of this town. It's a humble community, and although not rich in material stuff, they are rich in spirit for having the privilege of living such an uncomplicated lifestyle. So you can add things like washing line, because they have to do it themselves, children playing around, fishermen walking around, boats, seagulls, dogs, chickens, even water tanks, trash bins are things that you can add to this picture to give it more life to just the lines. So the lines of these houses, the horizontal lines, shift in direction due to perspective. So take note of that. There's a vanishing point where these lines will meet each other, while most of the vertical lines remain parallel to one another. So let's kick off and start this lesson, because you will really enjoy painting these cottages and with a sea, like a little house on the seaside. Enjoy. If you look at these shapes, this is horizontal. So the roof does this, and then it does less of it, and then the bottom does this. So there's a vanishing point at somewhere around here where all these lines will end. So I'm not going to do everything. I'm the artist. I can decide what I want to add, what I want to leave out. I'm going to also use this picture for the people in it, and I might add some of that picture for the washing line. So you can combine pictures, but this will be my main picture that I'm going to be using. So we're all ready to go. I'm going to start drawing using this picture that I showed. Always remember that your focal point, which will be the house, will not be in the middle of the page. So like I've said, look at the perspective. This one goes like this, then less, and then like that. So if you put the picture here, there will be a vanishing point somewhere around here where all these lines will go to, and that side will have another vanishing point, that one will have another vanishing point. Even the windows will line up to that vanishing point. All right, so let's do this picture. Not too big, because you want to be able to still add some background, and you want to have the effect of this little town where things are happening. It's not only the houses, there are the sea at the background and all of that. So while you're drawing, try to look at where the lines are going. This one is actually broken because this chimney, because of that chimney. I might add that, but I think I'm going to leave it because it's not really going to add to the composition. So And then when I do the roof, okay, you will see the roof actually goes a little further. And even these lines, they are not straight. They are slightly curved as well because of the perspective. So then when I come down here, and that one has less of it, but it doesn't start there. Can you see that the roof starts thereabout? And it's not in the same direction than the top one. It goes slightly more straight because of the perspective. And this one goes up. And the same with the windows. The windows will also line up. So you could actually do that, kind of working towards the vanishing point. The further away the windows are from you, the smaller in size they will be. The closer to you they are, the bigger they will become. I might add a door somewhere. I kind of think I'm going to change this and make a door there, and then just add another window. Let's change the door a little bit further away. There we go. Now the perspective is working. Can you see? And the only thing I'm going to add is I'm going to try and add these, you see the C line, but I always want my focal point to cross the horizon. So I won't make the C there, I will bring it down here, but never in the middle. So there's lots of things to take into consideration. I will go just above the middle, but never on a corner, because it's like a kissy lines, all of those coming together. You want to have each line to their own, if I can say it like that. Okay, that's part of the C, and then it might, let's have the beach vanishing there on that side. Just doing your own thing as well. I might have a washing line here later on. I might add some people here. But for now, let's erase all the unnecessary lines. Because remember, in watercolor, unnecessary lines, they show through the watercolor. So this is my drawing. How quick and how easy was that? Whatever house you choose. I wanted to add this. I wanted to add this. And maybe one or two of these. I quite like this. I don't know if it's a water tank or what, but it's quite an interesting variation to the linear shapes. It's a little bit of a circular oval kind of shape. There we go. You will see, you might struggle to see what I'm drawing because I don't draw too dark. Because of that, I might add some rocks over here, but not too many, not as many as they have there. But I might add some rocks there and maybe a bush or something here. Just want to break that line, bring that a little bit lower than that one. Always after you've drawn, assess your drawing and decide where you need to change, where you need to vary some lines, and so on. Good. I'm happy with the basics of my picture. Now I'm going for my colors. I'm going to start by washing my whole page in a burnt sienna undertone. Why do I do this? Because there's hardly any white on this picture. Can you see that this is white, but there's hardly any places that's really white. and there's like a pinkish undertone to the picture. So that's why I decided on burnt sienna as my undertone. So I take my burnt sienna with my biggie brush, add some water to one of the holes, and then I never use this brush to add the paint. Some paint in here, and always have your testing paper close by to make sure that your color, the color that you've mixed, is right. Can be a little bit darker. I'm going to add a touch more of the burnt sienna. That's a little bit better. Remember, when you're going to paint, you're going to do it into the wet, so it can be slightly darker than the color that you want, because the water that you add to the page is still going to dilute your tonal value some more. So I'm going to make the tonal value a little bit lighter. So I wet my whole page evenly, not soaking wet, but good, nice and wet, and then evenly I put the paint on to the whole page. And after I've done this, I'm going to dry it thoroughly. Remember, while we're drying, you will keep, at the moment my page is a little bit buckling a little bit. So if I have finished the drying process, the page there will be no buckling. Then I know that the page is thoroughly dry, because I need to really dry it thoroughly. So I've dried the whole page. It's evenly dried. There's some little marks that it made while I was drying because the one hair dryer was too strong. So be careful of that. Now I've taken out some ultramarine blue. When using ultramarine blue, always try to dilute it a little bit and maybe add some burnt sienna. So remember, blue and burnt sienna are complementary colors to each other, blue and orange, and burnt sienna is kind of like an orange. So I add a touch of burnt sienna to my blue, and there I see I have a more natural blue. It's almost like that one. I might want it a little bit darker because I'm going to work wet into wet. And make sure you mix enough. Make sure you mix enough so that you don't run out of paint halfway through your sky. Okay, there's my color. Happy with my color. And again, I'm going to wet, but just the sky now. So now wherever you wet, that is where the paint will run. So if you wet over the lines, the paint will run over the lines. Now I tilt my page like this. The paint to form clouds. The lower you go towards your horizon, the smaller the clouds will be because of perspective. So smaller clouds towards the bottom, bigger ones towards the top. I like to accentuate the lines of the roof, so I kind of make sure that my sky goes all around the roof to accentuate that. I might leave a nice big cloud over there. If you want to go more dramatic, you could always add some more blue and some more burnt sienna and go over those again with a darker color, just to create another layer of depth. Okay, and now again I will dry the whole picture. Make sure not to use a too strong a hair dryer, otherwise it actually blows the paint on one place. Before you leave, make sure you're happy with all of that, and then you can start drying with a hair dryer. Now we have the skies mostly set. It's not completely dry, but it's fine, because I'm not going to paint onto that again. So I'm going to touch it, but this is dry enough. So now I'm going to go for the sea. I always use these three, or mostly I use these three colors for the sea, which is ultramarine blue, viridian green, and burnt sienna. So I've added some viridian green to my mix. I made sure I still have enough burnt ultramarine blue left on my palette. And now painting the sea, I just want to dilute my viridian green a little. There we go. I think my blue is still good. My burnt sienna is still good. Might make the burnt sienna a touch darker. Good. So now I'm not going to wet the sea. I'm going to paint on dry in horizontal lines to get the effect of the sea in the distance. And here and there I can actually leave some white lines as well to indicate that there's some waves or something like that over there. Right. So I'm going to start with quite a dark blue. I want this to show off against the sky. I might darken that later some more. And then I keep going in horizontal lines. I want a pure blue as well, not one that's not only one that's mixed with a burnt sienna. This is more of a pure blue, ultramarine. As I come to the front, there's like foam on the beach, so you can work a little bit with your dry brush to get the foam on the beach. Touches of burnt sienna. Same on the other side. Just want to clean my brush and soften the edge here slightly. Same with this one. And then I can dry again. So our sea is almost dry. It's dry enough to continue. Now I'm going to do the foreground before starting on the house. So the foreground in this picture has some bushes, some rocks, but on the other pictures it's more simple. So I'm going to combine the two. I'm not going to add as much as these here, but still enough to just make it interesting. So to paint the rocks, I'm going to stick to the burnt sienna ultramarine blue mix. So I take burnt sienna but add some of the ultramarine to it to get that shadow on the rock kind of color. Can you see? It's like a brownish purple color. So for rocks, just decide from which side your light is coming. So if we look at this picture, the light is coming from this side because the shadows are on these sides. The lights from this side, shadows from this side, even on the rocks. Lights from that side, shadows from that side. So to keep it simple, let's paint the left sides and the bottom sides of the rocks. That's kind of an easy way to get the basics of the rocks. Might not be perfect rocks, but for the first lesson, I think this can work. I mean, to keep it simple. I soften with a clean brush, I soften little bits of it. Later on, I can add some more darks. So the bottoms and the left side, I paint. Not finishing in a perfect line, as you can see. And then I break it into the rest. And I stick to the same colors. There are some textures on the rock, so it doesn't have to be too smooth. The illusion of rocks. Remember, this is our focal point. The rest is just adding to the picture. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right. So going to the foreground itself, we just have to dry this slightly. So for the foreground, it might be easier to also wet it slightly. I am going to add touches of yellow ochre here for this. So I still have my burnt sienna, I still have my ultramarine blue. You could add burnt umber as well, but actually if you add blue to your brown, let me show you the difference. If you add blue to your brown, it's very similar to burnt umber. So if I mix burnt umber, this was the previous mix. Can you see it's a little bit more blue? If I add more blue, it'll be the same color. So you could add some burnt umber as well to the foreground. And then, of course, a little bit of yellow ochre. So we have a few earthy colors to paint the foreground with, although I already have a base coat. So you don't have to do too much. For the grass, I'm going to combine my yellow ochre with some of the ultramarine blue to start off with. I will really try, if I paint grass, I will really try not to use green from a tube because it creates this chocolate box effect. If you look at the green on the picture, it's very similar to this, which was the blue and the yellow ochre. Okay, so I've got the blue, I've got my burnt sienna, I've got the mixes of burnt sienna and blue, I've got yellow ochre, and I have some burnt umber. I just want to make some more of this one, the blue and the burnt sienna mix. Blue and burnt sienna, burnt umber, yellow ochre, and blue and yellow for the green. So you can actually be kind of relaxed. Okay, we decided we're going to wet this first because it makes it easier. But I'm not going to wet it all over the place, and I'm not going to wet it completely. Just to make the paint flow easier. I just see that this line is not lining up to there. It should be going there. I'm just going to wet slightly just to allow the paint to not make too much lines. But I'm not soaking it. I'm not making it too wet. Some greens. I'm going to add some greens here. Want to make the green a little bit darker. Some more blue, more yellow mix. We have some bushes here. We can have this usually little bits of bushes or greens next to the house. Which I will soften to the bottom. Not going to add too much. I actually like the base coat of this burnt sienna. If you use your nail, you can scratch some grass in here as well. It's quite an effective way. If you don't have nails, you can use the rounded side of a credit card. It also works. Hold the back of the brush. I like these little bits that's left open from the previous one. I might add touches of dark here just to accentuate the rocks. So maybe there's some things going out behind the rocks. But don't overdo it. It just needs to complement the composition, not overwhelm it. Mosquito in Qatar. Can you believe it? It's been giving me all my days. Good. So my background is almost finished, and then I can go move to the house. I'm just going to dry the background and then move to painting the walls and the windows and the doors and so on of the house. You look at the rocks down here and you look at the rocks down here, you can see that there needs to be many more shadows and tonal values. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 tonal values almost on each rock. So I've added 1, 2. I need to add some more tonal values. So I could do the same value than I used previously and just paint it on dry. Can you see when I paint it on dry, it looks darker than the previous one because it's painted on the previous one. So it's actually a double layer, so it's already darker. So I'm using the same one for now, and then I'll take it darker as we go along. I want to show you if you add touches of blue, pure blue as well on the rocks, how nice that looks. There's so much blue on rocks. Again, I'm sticking to the left side and the bottom, leaving the right and the top for the light to show through. Do them one by one, otherwise you struggle to soften. If they dry, you can't soften anymore. I added my blue a little bit too dark, so I'm just adding water to it. Okay, and there's one that I actually missed, that rock. There's another rock. Every time after I've painted, I clean my brush in water and I dab it on a tissue or a cloth before I soften. I paint, I wash my brush in the water, dab it on a cloth and soften slightly. Okay, adding some blues just to make it a little bit more interesting. And now I'm going to add the darkest one, which can be a burnt umber with a touch of ultramarine blue. Always a drop of water added, even if it's your darkest mix. You can use these for cracks as well if you have cracks on the rocks. But again, I will soften them. Soften them into the rock. Burnt umber, touch of ultramarine blue. Bottom and left. Bottom and left. Doesn't have to be too precise, it's rocks. They vary in shape and size. So you see, using just these colors, you can actually create such a lot of things and such a lot of tonal values. You don't have to add black to everything. Creating a little bit of texture with my dry brush here as well to make it more rocky. And there we go, these are rocks. So the rocks now has 1, 2, 3, 4 tonal values or more, so it looks more rocky. Now you can see the grass here also needs another tonal value, some of it. So I'm using my ultramarine blue, touch of yellow ochre, quite dark. Just not too much water, just to add a value to the grass there. You can just give it like a shadow as well. Never close a line, so you don't have to do the whole thing. It looks better already. Do the same this side. So these finishing touches are the things that makes your picture look real. You must also know when to stop. Don't overdo it, but always try and think what will add value. So these things will draw your eyes into the picture to take you to the focal point. That's why I can add some of it. Not too much. I do want to accentuate it here against the house, but I'm first going to paint the walls before I do the grass there. Otherwise I will lose we'll lose it when I'm painting the shadows. So we're going to paint the shadows on the walls now. So can you see this side where the light is coming from is light, and then there's a shadow, and there's a darker shadow. There's your light, there's your shadow, and there's a darker shadow. So we'll have again at least two or three tonal values, but we are going to try and capture the texture on the walls. Can you see there's a texture on the walls? So I want to try and use this brush. I'm going to start again with the side that has the shadow. This one is the shadow side. I'm going to leave this one for now because I've already washed it with burnt sienna. So for now I want to add color here. I'm doing it on dry because then the texture shows off better. See, I'm leaving places open, and it creates this nice texture. Darker at the bottom. And darker here where this side shows off against this light side. So it's also a shadow just underneath the roof where it touches the wall. I can use burnt sienna, I can use yellow ochre for this. I don't have to just stick to burnt sienna ultramarine mix. But I find that this color is quite natural. It works for me. Can you see? So you have a textured wall there. If it's dried, you can actually work some more into it. But again, don't overdo it. Less is more. Unless more is not enough. Unless less is not enough. Okay, so the windows and the doors are going to be quite dark. I will do that later. And the same goes for this chimney, the chimney thing. There's my line. So this one is light. There's my dark shadow. So I'm first going to do that one. Use a sharper brush so that I'll be able to do that line. Again, I work on dry. Burnt sienna ultramarine mix with water. Luckily, if you make the line, if you bend the line a little, it's not too much of an issue because the house is built like that. It's not precise like architects would design and build it. It's just as you go. So I'm going to not worry too much about my chimney. It's not perfect. So then I also have a shadow that the chimney throws on this wall. So I'm going to add that as well. It's lighter than the chimney shadow though. There we go. Let's see, over here it's just too light because you can't see the difference between the two there. So I'm going to use that burnt sienna ultramarine mix of mine, but add a touch of water just to make a shadow here on this side. And it's that lighter mix that I just add some texture to the wall. Needs to be lighter than the rest. There can be texture on at the bottom of the chimney as well, but lighter than the shadow. And this thing might throw a shadow on the wall here. As my brush dries, I just create the texture with a dry brush. This water tank or whatever it is, I'm first going to paint the shadow in, and then I will add the darks and the marks on it. It's again my burnt sienna ultramarine mix. Again, I use the left side as my shadow side, the left and the bottom will be my shadow. Wash my brush, dry it on the cloth and just soften the paint into the, doesn't have to be too precise. It's an old water tank or whatever it is. And if I look at the water tank, it's quite dark there, and then it has quite dark lines underneath each rim. So again, I'm going for, maybe I add a touch of burnt umber with blue there. Oops. Kind of messed up the line there. Let's see if we can fix it again. If you work with these really dark lines, make sure you think before you ink. Never close a line. And never outline everything. You don't want everything to be outlined like we used to do when we were in grade 1 or 2. First outline everything and then you color it in. Nope, we don't do that in art. There's some dark marks on the thing I'm trying to add. There we go. And then there will be shadows. If the light comes from this side, this thing will be a shadow on the ground. The house will throw a shadow on the ground, so we will add that later. Okay, so for now, let's go back to the windows. You'll see the windows. You can do it in simple way. If you have the window like this, there is a part that's the depth of the window, kind of like that, and then inside there is the window, like the frame. So if you paint, so let's do that inside our windows. So there will be the inside of my window. And this one is smaller, so you don't see that much. So for this part must be darker than the wall so that you can see that it's the window, but not too dark. Again, burnt sienna ultramarine mix. See, I don't paint this side because this side is the side of the wall. So now if that's dry, I'm going to do the inside of the window. So for now, I just leave it at that for this to dry while I'm going to the door of the house. I'm trying to find one of the houses that shows a door. There's one, so it's also quite dark, has this lintel kind of thing at the top. So again, I'm going for the shadow part there, and then I'm just going to do the door. Really dark, I think. You can do it in color as well. Some of the doors are quite colorful. So let's do a touch of like a greenish blue door. This is Viridian green with a touch of ultramarine blue. But you can even do a red, or might be quite interesting. So you can't really have a door too skew. It needs to look like a door. It needs to be quite straight. Okay, going into the windows, here I will go back to a burnt umber, which is the darker brown, with some ultramarine blue to it, so that you can really have your dark. So I'm going to paint the inside of these things like this and leave little spaces open. I'm going to use a little bit smaller brush here. Need dark color, so I'm using pigment burnt umber and pigment ultramarine blue. Just allow the water to run off. And say I have so this needs to be darker on the outside. Leave a piece open, which will indicate the white of the window frame. Again, doesn't have to be too precise. Remember, in watercolor you always work from light to dark, so we've done all the light parts on the walls. Now we're going for the darker parts. These lines needs to line up, otherwise your perspective is not working well. Okay, what else? Now we can go to the roof. So when we paint the roof, I do like to add some you could also do the blue and the burnt umber. Let's do that. The blue and the burnt umber, and then burnt sienna. So it's like a grass kind of roof, thatched roof. So the direction that the, let's say the grass or whatever is going is that away. I look at that picture. You can see it's quite dark at the bottom, almost like burnt umber, line. You can even use burnt umber with a touch of blue here at the bottom. And then as it goes up, you can vary the color. I keep my brush strokes in the direction of the thatch roof. Burnt umber and ultramarine blue. There's a white space at the top. Can you see there? So I'm trying to leave that open. can be quite dark. This is kind of almost like the darkest part of the picture. And you could even scratch in over there with the back of the brush. So again, the bottom is quite dark. Again, there's a white piece over there. There's our roof. Okay, so what do we still need here? I think on the door we need some darks as well. The door to me is a little bit too blue, too light. Even that looks better, even if it's not fully paint. Looks better. Okay. I want to add another piece of like a bush. Soften the bottom. So this is just like the finishing touches now. I like to do the corners of the house. There's sometimes these okay, shall we do some birds in the sky? We need some more ultramarine blue because I want to do the birds with ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. I still have enough burnt sienna left. Touch more ultramarine blue. Finest brush that you have. Shall we do 3 or 5? Always uneven number. Try never to do even numbers. Okay, there we go. We've got the birds. We could do some washing because it seems to me as if we need some red on the page. So I'm going to do a washing line here to take my eye inside the picture. So this will be the back washing line, let's say over there somewhere, and then I'll have one here, the pole, the washing line, and it will go that away. Always there will be a shadow, so the light comes from there, shadow goes that side. So the washing line, let's say the shadow will go that side and that side. You can soften it a little, doesn't have to be such a hard shadow. And then we need some red clothes on the line. I think we need a this is, I think it's crimson red, scarlet. This one says scarlet. You can use crimson, you can use scarlet, you can use vermilion, but let's get some. Shall we do a red top? Oops, look at that now. Let's do a red t-shirt hanging on the line, blowing in the wind. And again, if you paint that, try, can you see I left the space open just to get a little lighter piece there, so that the whole thing is not the same value. These must be shadows as well. Okay, and then we'll have some blue jeans. How about some blue jeans? Light from this side, so there we go. Shall we add a dress as well? Maybe another something red. I think we need to repeat the red again. Let's add a touch of blue to the red, just to make it a little bit different. What shall we do there in the red? A dress, a little girl's dress maybe. Some washing. You could add some people as well. What I'm doing at the moment is just pushing and pulling, pushing my darks, pulling my lights, just accentuating wherever I think things are vanishing into, but don't overdo it. All right, shadow there. A little bit of a shadow there. take my big brush, add some color, dab it on my paper, and just add patches of texture to the ground, because usually the ground is not as smooth as this. It can be brown or whatever. There we go. I think my picture is done. Hope you enjoyed it.